I am astonished by the fluency of the new large language models. So just the ability to have a nuanced conversation back and forth. And what is equally astonishing is how wrong they can be. This is a technology that is almost shockingly simple in that it's just stringing words together. And it's stringing words together in a statistical way to say, okay, this is what I've said. This is the next word that's going to pop out. And I almost think about it like the world's greatest con man. You know, it doesn't know what's going to come out of its mouth next, but it's really convincing. And you just get it talking about anything, and it's going to put one word after the other and make a sentence. What I've seen, and Bennett and I have been in the trenches on this, is we've seen lots of flavors of these large language models. And so far, and I think, you know, anytime you make an absolute statement about technology these days, you're wrong 2 days later, but I don't know when it's going to air.
Yep.
But at least as of this precise moment in human history, my experience is the more controlled and constrained these models are to ensure the accuracy of what they're saying, the less chatty they are. You can't have those same like, well, chatbot, what I really meant was this, and let me give you an example, and it'll say, oh, I see what you're saying. You're really and so there almost seems to be this tension between fluency and accuracy. And of course that's going to change. And of course one day we'll have both. But it's a hard place to be right now. And as a law firm adopting this technology, we're thinking very hard about how do you fine tune it? How do you balance those trade-offs? And where does the real power lie? And then what are the checks you need around it so that you're getting the good stuff and you are controlling against the errors?
Yeah, these large language models are absolutely astounding. When I first got my hands on them, especially CoCounsel. So the interesting thing about CoCounsel is it is trained on the world, but it's focused on legal. So cases, secondary sources, and whatever you put into it. And so the first time I was playing with it and asked it, like I asked it some legal questions. What are the events that trigger a duty to preserve any discovery, electronic discovery? Nice. Hit the button. A few seconds later, it came out with 3 paragraphs that were spot on, beautiful prose, and literally the hairs in the back of my neck stood up. So then started to press it more, like, okay, asking it questions where the answer is not entirely clear, it starts to choke a little bit, but then it tells me that the answer is not clear, which is almost just as valuable, right? What we're doing is plumbing the depths of where it is exceptionally good and where it's not yet quite so good. And not just CoCounsel, but other GPT-4 based products. Because so much of what lawyers do, like we mentioned a little bit last time, is gathering information, analyzing that information to pick out the important bits. And sometimes that is buried within a 150-page document or 150 emails or 150 million emails. And so anything that can help me identify and pull out the most relevant stuff quicker and more efficiently allows my lawyers to be lawyers. And that's where so much of this is coming in. So these new LLMs, I think this is the most disruptive technology since the computer, if not the printing press. And we are just starting to see the tiniest disruptions that's about to pretty much overtake the world. What we are finding is it's all about how you use the tool, right? And so we are able to focus it on like a particular set of 150 million documents and say, this is your world. I want to ask you questions about this world, and these are the main facts in this world. Now, its brain is based on the rest of the world, right? But where it's getting its answers from and the insights from, I can focus down to a smaller view of that world. But even then, how to get the answer out and how do you make sure it's accurate? The nice thing about lawyers, right, is we have a professional responsibility to make sure everything we say and do is actually true and based on reasonable facts. And so it's kind of easy to work in this kind of technology as a head start or as a stepping stone into the final product. It doesn't disrupt us as much because we still have to verify everything. But we are finding that really fine-tuning how you use it, because even these models, they're built a certain way. they understand prompts a certain way. So knowing how these things work makes it better so you can get a better answer out of them.
I think, first of all, on your Faust point, I wasn't sure who to feel sorry for, the lawyer that had to deal with large language models or the large language models that have to deal with lawyers. Maybe we deserve each other. Lawyers are translators. I mean, we always have been, right? The role of the lawyer is knowing how to ask the questions. And I really don't care if you're a litigator or a deal lawyer. You're trying to get your client's objective done. And there's a million ways to do it. And where the lawyer adds value is knowing the right argument and the right frame and the right story to tell. And I mean that in the narrative sense of how do you take this jumble of facts in the world and make something coherent out of them. And so when I'm playing at night with ChatGPT with my kid, which has strangely become a pastime in the last couple months, what it reminds me most of is depositions. Because depositions aren't really like what you see on TV where someone's just attacking someone and berating them is somehow going to magically get the answer out. It's a conversation and you're asking the same question different ways and you're coming at it with different nuance and different angles and you're asking the right question. I remember really early in my training, a really good trial lawyer was my mentor, said to me, you don't have to go into the deposition assuming the person is lying. Just ask them the right questions. That's on us. And I think chatbots or large language models or AI, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. It's understanding who you're dealing with and asking the right question. And so lawyers are going to be really good at this. I mean, we had to learn Boolean logic. Even the English majors who went to law school had to learn Boolean search queries to do Westlaw.
Right.
And we got really good at that. And I think we're going to get really good at talking to large language models in a way that elicits the right answer. But I think, at least for the near term, it's not going to be a replacement of lawyers. I think it's going to be a meaningful relationship between lawyers and computers that is increasingly one of mutuality. It's a conversation, not just a tool. But, that's no different than sitting across the table and striking a deal with a human. You got to approach it the right way and know what to do with the feedback.
If you look at what a adversarial proceeding is, there's these two separate streams of input, the plaintiff and defendant. There's kind of a traffic cop and the judge, and then there's decision makers who's either the judge or the jury. And there's inputs and outputs, and there's static layers in between each of those. And so how do we package the message to get through the static to the people who are making the decision, and in all the proper formats, all the proper rules, like hearsay and objections and leading questions and all that stuff, right? It's literally a paradigmatic system. And so understanding how to use the tech to deliver into that system is what's really, really important and really fun. Like the analogy that Danny and I use all the time is we're talking Iron Man, not Terminator, when it comes to lawyers. Right? That if you look at what Iron Man is, he's a really, really smart guy encased in incredible technology. But it's his direction of that technology and even development of that technology that turns him into a superhero, right? And so that's what we're trying to do. There are really, really smart lawyers. And how can we encase that acumen in this really cool tech in a way that furthers their reach, furthers their accuracy, and that is inevitably going to change all aspects of how we practice law. But then whether it's on the transactional side or on the litigation side, that is inevitably going to have these follow-on consequences.